Welcome to Getting Unstuck with Wendy B. Thanks for joining me. And today I have a guest, Christine Lake. Hi, Christine. Thank you
Hi.
for coming. And Christine Lake is a therapist. And today we're going to talk about 7 deadly emotions of caregivers burnout. So, a little about myself. I am a podcaster. I have a podcast, Thriving at 60. I'm in I have over 26,000 followers, and I'm in over 30 different countries. I'm also a coach. I've been coaching for over 40 years, and I'm a author of 2 books, Living Your Passion with James Malichuk and a bunch of other thought leaders. And then I have a best-selling book, Getting Unstuck, 30 Ways to Turn Your Limiting Beliefs into Clarity, Freedom, and Power. And you can get that on Amazon in paperback or digital. And if you just want it digital, you can also get it on Tolino, Kobo, Apple, Barnes & Noble, 24 Symbols. But if you want it in paperback, you must get it on Amazon. So thank you. So we're just going to jump right in. And Christine and I were talking. She's my sister, and also we've been spending the last 10 days together. And I thought, we talked, and she said, well, why don't I talk about the 7 deadly emotions? So can you share a little about why you chose that, Christine?
Well, the first thought I had was caregiver burnout, and it's so widely spread now. The 50s generation, where either looking after our parents or our kids are looking after us as we head into those twilight zones. And there's not enough groups, there's not enough public knowledge about it. How do people take care of themselves?
Great. So how do you want to start off with?
Well, I think I'll start off with just giving a definition of what is caregiver burnout.
Okay, great.
So caregiver burnout, the actual definition is a state of a mental and emotional exhaustion, and it may be accompanied by a change of attitude from someone who has a real positive attitude all the time, and now they have a really negative attitude. They may have been full of energy. Now they're just tired all the time, physically and emotionally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you. And are you going to start sharing what are the emotions for us to look for?
Yeah, there's kind of a catchphrase of the 7 deadly sins. Well, it's the 7 deadly emotions of caregiver burnout. And I think it's helpful when you can distinguish which they are, and you can see as you go down the list, do I have these? Am I in one of those? Am I unstuck in one of those? So you could experience them all at different times, or all at once would feel really, really overwhelming, and you would probably be at the end of your burnout process.
Well, that's great. And then my thing is always, how do we get unstuck? So as you share them, you will leave us with some way to take care of ourselves. So if we are experiencing 1 or 7 of these emotions.
Absolutely. As
Perfect.
I go through, if we have time, I'll go through them all. If not, you can always email me at christine@lake.ca and ask me about that.
Okay. Well, why don't you name the 7, and then I'll see how much time we have.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's guilt, resentment, anger, worry, loneliness, grief, and defensiveness.
Okay.
Are what we call the 7 deadly sins.
Perfect.
So I just got my paperwork here so I don't miss any. So really caregiver burnout can occur when the person is not getting enough resources that they need. They may be physical resources where they need someone to help them do things. They may be mental resources where they just have someone to talk about to what they're experiencing and normalize it. And it may be financial burnout where they don't have the resources to get in the help they need. And I know across Canada now, I'm speaking to you from British Columbia, Vancouver Island, We certainly don't, and I hear about other provinces don't have enough resources to help caregivers out. And the burden of care has been placed, from the federal government onto the provincial government, which has placed it on families. So families are solely responsible, end up looking after their loved ones until they absolutely can't do it anymore. And then when they're burnt out, they then will put them into a long-term care facility. Now, if you were to approach a long-term care case manager and finally get on a list and have your loved one assessed, they might start putting care into the home. But it's because the system is so overloaded, the workers are overloaded, it can be a long, long process. So my suggestion would be to approach them way sooner than later.
So if you have a parent that's getting elderly, how soon should you approach them?
I think that as soon as you're having to start to care for them, like you're having to start to bathe them and help them get dressed. I mean, normally women that are 70 and 80 years old already are almost always, not always, but doing the cooking. So they might not occur to them then. But when you start doing stuff for, it could be your child, could be your neighbor you start doing this for.
Yes.
Never mind just a loved one. That's when you need to be approaching the health authority and saying, is there any help I can get? Can you please come and assess them for care? Maybe they can come and send in bath care. Maybe they can send in someone to help dress them. Maybe they can send in someone to grocery shop, which would relieve your burden.
So who would they call? We're in BC, but who would they call?
Well, the first person they need to talk to is their doctor.
Okay.
And it depends on what health authority they're in, whether it goes in from the doctor or not. The other option is to look up your health authority and call them and look for long-term care. But I would certainly do both.
Okay.
But I'll get to the deadly emotions, and the first one is guilt. And so guilt is absolutely unavoidable as you try to do it all. You start to become overwhelmed. And you feel guilty because you think you should be doing it all. So guilt is full of shoulds and oughts. I ought to have done that. I should have done that. So we'll often say, stop shoulding on yourself. So it's virtually unavoidable. So it stems from, kind of a mistaken belief that we're supposed to be responsible for it all. And we might think that we said or did the wrong thing because we're exhausted up to the person we're caring for. We think we're not doing enough, or we think we're not doing it the right way. Maybe there's a better way to do it. I didn't tuck that sheet in the right way, or I didn't have time to wash those sheets today, and maybe I should wash them every day. Well, maybe you only have time to wash them once a week. And as long as they're not wet and dirty, what's the big deal? Give yourself a break. So it's like I said, you have a long list of shoulds and ought tos and thoughts. It's really a corrosive emotion. And, because you're beating yourself up. And mostly our thoughts are imagined. We're our worst critics about ourselves. And so you have an unrealistic belief about your thoughts and what's expected of you. Your intentions are good, but your resources are limited. And the problem with this emotion is it's such a taboo emotion that we often don't talk about it.
Well, and what I was thinking too, we have a mom in a home, but there's, yourself and our younger sister who is power of attorney, so you guys take care of most of it, but it's like it's shared, right? So could you maybe briefly say, or maybe I'll just speak it, it's like if you have other family members, invite them to participate or request that they participate, maybe, because it shouldn't just be one sibling taking care of the parent or parents.
Yeah, that it's important that for family members to talk in and bring in other people and make sure that is there other things other people can do. The difference with Judy and I is we both live 3,000 miles away from mom or something like that. So I don't really want to get into personal stuff at this point, but so we rely on a facility to provide the care for mom, but that involves several phone calls every week to make sure her needs are getting met, because we're not there to see her, especially during COVID, to see if her cares are getting met. So that can be very trying as well. Mm-hmm. The other second emotion I want to talk about is resentment, and like, it's another taboo one. We don't want to talk about our emotions. What is really helpful is to just name the emotion, is to stop, take a second and think, what am I feeling? What am I experiencing? Oh, I'm feeling resentful. Take a breath. What am I resentful about? Oh, well, that's not realistic. I don't have control over that. So blog, journal, like, what is normal? We forget in the middle of that what is really normal.
Yes.
And then asking for what kind of support I can get, as you talked about earlier. Like, can I phone a government agency, and if they don't, can they give me suggestions who I can call? Sometimes when people belong to churches have groups that will help organize. Maybe someone will go get the groceries for you. Maybe someone will come do the laundry for you. Because without support, we feel abandoned, we feel ignored, or we feel criticized. And so I just want to move on to the third one, anger. It's another one we don't like to talk about, another taboo subject. Anger can cause lack of sleep. It can cause high blood pressure. It can cause heart issues, heart attacks, and all because you have lack of help. You may, maybe the person you're caring for, or maybe others in your family think that you should be doing it better, and they voice that. So those criticisms aren't helpful. So now we're angry at them, and then maybe we're angry at ourselves because we think we should be doing a better job. But the risks of it are like I said, lack of sleep, stomach problems, headaches, and it can lead to depression too. And if we don't get our anger under control, it leads to harming others as well, because we're exploding on other people. And often it'll be the ones that are closest to us, the one that we're caring about. So it's helpful to try to learn to express your anger in a healthy way. Maybe before you get if you notice, oh, I'm feeling a little agitated, maybe I need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to do some deep breathing. Maybe I need to go away and meditate. Anything else that you wanted to add there, Wendy?
Well, I think with resentment and anger and guilt, it's all normal. So to have a safe people, have a group of safe people that you can talk to. It can be a therapist, but it also could be a best friend. It could be a coach. It could be anybody that you feel safe that actually has gone through it or has empathy around it to support you, to give you other ideas so you don't feel so alone, right?
Yeah. And another one of the deadly emotions is worry. Oh. And getting caught up in worry. It's caused by good intentions. We think, oh, if we could only get this done, and we could get that bed moved over there, and if I could have like 3 extra pair of sheets every day in case there's an accident. But is it realistic? It's a good intention. And so when we get stuck in that overwhelm of how much we expect of ourselves to do and we can't do it, we become overwhelmed, we start beating ourselves up, and we start worrying. So you're either worrying or you're engaged in something. Mm-hmm. And so the way out of worry is to stop. If you can stop yourself and have a conversation with someone, phone up a friend, phone up your doctor, and say that I'm stuck in doing this. And
I'm just going to turn off your phone.
And I'm really worrying here because the risks of worrying are undereating, or mindless eating, or it interferes with your sleep. And there are other productive alternatives. And like I said, phone a friend, phone your doctor, phone a counselor. Sometimes they have groups that you can join.
Yep.
Would certainly be phoning the health department and seeing if there are any caregiver groups that you can join. Another deadly emotion is loneliness.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, friends may have backed away because you are so busy taking care of your disabled son or your disabled daughter or your disabled partner or your disabled neighbor or your disabled mother or father. And you're so busy with them, you haven't called them. Maybe they've called you and you've said, I don't have time to talk right now. And so they've backed away. They just don't know how to help. Yeah, and the impacts and that's stress when you're lonely, and the impacts of that are far, far reaching. You know, stress impacts the brain. You know, it's been described as you're driving down 14 lanes of traffic outside of Toronto, and you're going one way, and you're going like this, trying to avoid all the others. So you can't think clearly anymore. And what can you do about that? Well, there's online support groups. I know during COVID there's probably no in-house support groups, but whatever the issue you're dealing with, whether it's Parkinson's or MS or some other disease, hopefully there is an online support group.
Or even start one if there isn't.
Yeah, and if you're exhausted, they may not
Oh,
have the
yeah.
resources to do that.
Yeah.
But if you know someone who knows how to start a support group.
Sure.
But if you know other people that are in the same boat as you, maybe you guys could do like a FaceTime call together and set aside an hour to just talk about what's going on. You might want it to be guided. Now, the other one is grief. And we talked a little bit last week about, grief, anticipatory grief. And, you're looking after someone for months or years and they're losing their abilities, whether it's your child or your parent or your partner. And so anticipatory grief comes in there, which is, the time before the person passes away. So you can be having thoughts and feelings about grief, and it's allowing yourself to express them in a safe way, because without doing that, it's going to lead to depression, and then you're going to be isolated, and it's going to be real hard to dig out of that hole.
Yes.
Again, join a group, try to get a call your local hospital and say, is there a social worker who deals with grief? Is there a social worker there who can talk about long-term care to me, to hook me up to the resources that I need if possible? Or private counseling if you can afford that. And then the last deadly emotion is defensiveness. And they're all about when you're doing too much.
Yes.
So when you're doing too much, it's natural to bristle. And the risk of that is your mind becomes closed. You're not open to new alternatives. And you risk losing long-time help because it pushes people away when we're defensive. And what can you do? Catch yourself, if you can catch yourself getting cross. So you can take a breath, take a moment, leave the room, or say, can I call you back right now? My oven bell went off. Make up some excuse to get away from the action so you can go take a breath, take some breaths, and pause and consider, and then remember the whole picture, not this just moment when you bristle. They may not have meant at all what you took it as, but you are going to need help. So try to remember, and it's hard in that position to remember that. So there quickly in a synopsis is the 7 deadly emotions of caregiver burnout.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, like Christine said, you can email her at Christine
Christine at Lake.
Christine@lake.ca. You can get a hold of me at Getting Unstuck with Wendy B or wendybergen.com. Go to my website, wendybergen.com. On my podcast, I will be writing on the blog some of this stuff so that you can get the support you need. For me, what I just keep hearing, and I support my sister Judy and Christine with our mother, and we need safe places to share, and we need to be valued for what we're doing, right? And sometimes siblings can't give it, so we have to find that value from other people. And what I also heard is if you can be in a group, you're going to be valued because people are going to appreciate what you're going through because they've gone through it themselves. So thank you very much for, I'm glad that we had the opportunity to be together the last 2 weeks doing this Facebook Live, because we don't get that opportunity too often. What I want to leave you with is that you can get a complimentary discovery session with me on any area that you're getting stuck in, even in caregiving. And you just message me and we'll create a time that we can do that together. Also, it is complimentary. My gift to you, because I always want people to get unstuck and move forward. And also I'll end it with my book, Getting Unstuck, 30 Ways to Turn Your Limiting Barriers into Clarity, Freedom, and Power. You can get that on Amazon in paperback or digital. And thank you for coming on, and I'll be on at 12 noon next week. We changed it. Oh, thank you, whoever that is. I don't know who's saying hi, but thank you. At 12 noon next week, but I thought I'd take advantage because I'm catching a ferry. So thank you, and have a great Sunday. Bye now.